Good evening. Excited to have you all joining us here for the parent chat, our June edition. And lots of good questions submitted ahead of time, as always, that are going to drive our conversation tonight. Always appreciate those. We'll try to keep an eye on the chat as well, too. If there's any clarifying questions or new questions that pop up, we'll do our best to answer those as they come in as well. But lots of questions ahead of time, so we'll jump right into introductions. My name is Chad Eichhoff. I serve as Chief Enrollment Strategist here at NAU and been here for 14 years in Flagstaff and at NAU, and absolutely love it here and love the work we do within enrollment management, working with students in that transition between high school, or maybe they're transferring from another institution to NAU, and the families that are there as support systems. So thanks for joining us here, and I'll turn it over to Danny to introduce herself.
Hey, thanks so much, Chad. As Chad mentioned, my name is Danny Donaldson. I'm the Director of Admissions here with Northern Arizona University's admissions team. I'm a third generation Flagstaff local. So Flagstaff, the place where you are sending your students, is my hometown. And I'm a proud two-time NAU alumna as well. So really excited to have the opportunity to do a parent chat and share some of the good reasons why your students should have chosen NAU, and also some of the outcomes that they can anticipate. So excited to be in this space. And Alicia, I will hand things over to you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Alicia Stewart-Wojtek. I serve as Associate Vice President for Campus Living, which is our housing here on campus at NAU. And next month will be to mark 27 years that I've been here at NAU. So I've been here well over half my life. So I'm originally from outside of Buffalo, New York. This has been my home here at Flagstaff for a while, and have had at least one of my children attend NAU, so I can speak kind of from a parent perspective as well. So anyways, great to have you tonight, and thanks for listening.
Great. So to kind of lay out what we're planning to do tonight, again, lots of questions submitted ahead of time, and I did my best to kind of put those into kind of different chunks and segments. First, we had a couple of questions on academics, a few questions on advising, big section on housing. So that's why we've got Alicia here as our housing expert to be able to talk through that. Some dining questions, questions around finances, some health questions, orientation, safety, transportation, and then kind of some other questions. So got a lot to get through tonight. And that's kind of the order we plan to go about trying to tackle these questions. If you're watching it after the fact as in a recording, now you kind of know a little bit of the order we're going to be going through to try to skip ahead to those questions that you may be most interested in. So I'm going to kick it off with academics, and really kind of a couple questions there, and I'll throw it to Danny for these. There was a parent that said their son was admitted to the honors program. What does that entail, being in the honors college? And then also a question around first year seminar. And a parent had seen that their student was registered for a first year seminar and wanted to get a little more info about that. So I'll throw those two questions to you, Danny.
Yes, yeah, of course. Well, first and foremost, congratulations to the parent of the student who was selected for the Honors College. It's a very exciting opportunity. I think the Honors College is a really great opportunity for students to get engaged in their education. In addition to becoming active leaders, they are doing mentoring of other students on campus, and really learn what it means to become a catalyst of positive change. How do you become a citizen who's giving back to their community? It also means that your student has faculty mentors who are involved in their 4 years, right? So the Honors College experience isn't just a couple of classes that you take freshman year, check a box. It's something that's really incorporated into their entire 4-year experience. And so I think one of the best things that you can think, or one of the best ways that you can think about the Honors College is just that you have more students invested, rather more people invested in the success of your student. So would encourage you to reach out to the Honors College Glenn Hansen, Kevin Gustafson. They're both fantastic people to connect with so that you can feel good about the experience that your student is going to have throughout their 4 years here at NAU. So freshman or first year seminar, excuse me, is something that students are encouraged to take. Their courses that are really more so interest-based. And so your student is interested and engaged in the curriculum. I'm thinking about some of the coursework that I've seen, like Latino, what does it mean to be Latino, Latinx, Latine? And so it's a topic area that your student may be interested in. And really the important takeaways is that we are capping those courses at about 40 students. So it's very much engaged, and it's a great way for your students to learn about what it means to be an engaged learner in their education. The faculty members are very engaged with our first year seminar as well. So it's really about building good study habits, learning how to connect with our faculty here. So these first year seminar courses are really good habits for your students to build in this smaller space, but that can be applied at the larger scale throughout their 4 years here at the university. So both really great opportunities that I highly encourage students to consider.
Loving watching the chat right now and seeing where everyone is joining us from. Just saw we've got someone join us from Honolulu, where it's 2 o'clock right now. And then, yeah, Ohio, Portland, Cincinnati. So a couple of folks from Ohio, you should connect, Chris and Jason. It looks like you both have a student joining us from the state of Ohio. And then I guess the last kind of academic question was around kind of drop ad policy. So when you can, when is the last date you could drop a class and get a refund for that class, for instance? If you could talk a little bit about that, Danny.
Super important question. And so students' classes will begin on August 29th. And then from there, they'll get like about a week. I believe the ad drop deadline is September 7th and September 8th. And that's dropping the course without a W on your transcript, which is something that's important to take into consideration. And so one of the things that I recommend is on our Office of the Registrar's website, they outline all of the important dates. In addition to add drop deadlines for courses, students, families can also access, when is the Thanksgiving holiday? When am I, what are those breaks that we can anticipate? So encourage you to jump into that website just so that you can familiarize yourself with those important dates and deadlines.
Great. And I'm going to share a screen on some other stuff. And I've got the page up now that you just mentioned around the registrar. So I'll share a screen there quick. And actually, I just Googled NAU important dates. And this was the page that came up on Google there. And if you look at the 2023 academic year calendar and look at class session calendar, here's kind of what Danny was talking about, these different dates in terms of when you can still get refunds, drop without a W, which is kind of a mark on your transcript that you withdrew from a course. So that those are some important dates, and those are posted every year, every semester for you and your student to understand some of those important dates. So I'm going to jump into kind of the next section of questions now, which was around advising. And the website I'm going to show you for that is nau.edu/gateway. Our Gateway Student Success Center handles most of our first year advising. And this is their main webpage here. And we got less questions this session than we did last time. We had some that we didn't get to the last session. So I think a lot of folks are kind of figuring out the steps here around advising, but really it's a 3-step process for your student. First of all, we want them to complete priority enrollment, which kind of fills out a profile and begins that communication with the academic advisor. It confirms what academic major they want to study. Maybe they changed their mind since they applied. They'd be able to change that within priority enrollment. And then they're asking that they complete an academic advising module that gives kind of an overview of advising and course selection and all of that. And then after that, they could schedule an advising appointment with their academic advisor. There are still appointments available in the month of July. And then once those fill up, they're going to start opening August options for students, but there are July options for students to be able to choose from. There are also, if they've got just a quick question, maybe that isn't the full-on advising appointment, there are these Zoom drop-in hours. And you can see the hours here listed on the web page and the link to be able to do so. They could stop by there and ask an advising staff member a question if they did want to just stop in for that. And the student, we did have a question come in. Hey, my student has yet to hear from an advisor about a class schedule. Really, it's the student that initiates through that scheduling of the advising appointment. So that's the step that the student will do there. That being said, students actually have the ability to enroll themselves in courses. So if there's a course that's out there and your student knows they definitely want to get in that and they have yet to meet with their advisor, they can enroll in that. And then when they have that advising appointment, they can discuss that further in terms of if that was the right choice to be taking that particular course. But you see the links there on the side of the page for priority enrollment, and then the signing up for new student advising piece, those same 3 steps. And this is where you actually see the links to the online modules and that ability to sign up for appointments. So that's kind of a high level overview of the advising piece that would help a student ultimately end up getting their class schedule. So just wanted to talk through that a little bit. And if there's other clarifying questions, definitely feel free to pop those in the chat. And I want to thank Lexi and Fred that are in the chat helping out answering those questions as they come in as well. So now our next section, which I think probably the biggest number of our questions coming in ahead of time, we're on this topic, which is housing. And again, Alicia is our main housing expert here on campus. And Alicia, I just want to turn it over to you. I'm not going to point to any specific question, but if you can talk through kind of move-in, room selection, all of that good stuff, that would be great.
Yeah, thank you. And Chad, I don't know if you want to pull up the move-in site, that might be helpful. I know we got a handful of questions about move-in, some about early check-in, what to expect. And so what we want you to do throughout the summer is kind of just keep this page bookmarked. We'll continue to update even further details as we get closer to fall arrival. But this is kind of the move-in details for this fall. So it kind of talks about, tomorrow you'll see a calendar. We're updating the calendar this afternoon, so it's not showing there, but check back tomorrow and I'll have kind of all the early move-in dates, but I'll talk about this move-in steps that you'll do. But basically, in a nutshell, in terms of move-in, our main opening days are the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, prior to classes beginning on that Monday, the 29th. And so that's when most of our students will move in over that kind of 4-day period. And then we have some early move-in dates. So if you wanted to arrive a little bit early, you can do that for $25 a day. If you're with a specific group like band or other kind of organized groups, you may have a special move-in day designated based on what your involvement is for opening week. So sometimes we let some groups move in a little bit earlier because they're actually helping us move students in, or they're helping do something else with welcome week. So keep attention to that. The calendar will have all the dates, and it will also include on there which days will have what we call our welcome jacks. And so welcome jacks are upper division students who volunteer to help move students in. So some of them will be directing traffic, some will be answering questions, some will be helping to move your belongings up to your room. And they're really there just to help that be a really smooth process. So I usually say during orientation that if all of a sudden you get to your unloading zone and you're surrounded by people in yellow shirts that say welcome jacks, don't worry, they're not trying to steal your stuff, they're actually just helping you move. So they should actually introduce themselves and not just grab your things, but just so you know, anyone with that kind of golden t-shirt that says welcome jacks will be able to answer some questions and help you with that moving process, as well as our campus living staff. So we have well over 250 student staff members who'll be involved in some level of move-in, and we'll be, we have over 200 community assistants who live in our buildings that will be right there on the floor with your students. And then in addition, some other additional resource positions that we have in our department to help you with that transition to college and your college experience. So Chad's kind of scrolling through, you'll see information there about Welcome Jacks. So again, they have some scheduled hours. So when you look at the calendar, you'll be able to see when those Welcome Jacks will be available. So if you wanted to choose an appointment during those times so that you know that Welcome Jacks will be available, you can do that. If you're not as concerned about having Welcome Jack help, you can do one of the bookend appointments. And all of our move-in appointments, if you're wondering about that, so everybody who's coming to campus selects a specific move-in time, and those will become available around the first week in August. And we do that kind of in a staggered way, generally around, date of housing application and building that you're living in. So we'll send you, when it's time to go and select a move-in appointment, we'll notify you through email and let you know when to go back into the housing portal to do that. They're designated in 40 minute appointments to allow you to come up, get in the unloading zone, unload your belongings, get them up to your room, and then move your car back or your vehicle to a designated parking lot. And so that's kind of just how that works. And so you can look through this, read some more details, but that's basically kind of in a nutshell what you need to know about moving and preparing. And there's also a great, on this page too, there's some links to like preparing for a move-in, things to do over the summer. There's a what to bring list. And so if you're trying to decide, what to pack or not to pack, we have it both listed here under those drop downs. And then there's also a printable PDF if you want to take it shopping with you. And there's some things of like what we encourage you to bring, what you might think about bringing, and then what not to bring. So make sure you pay attention to that as well. Most of those not to brings are related to fire safety or other safety kind of concerns. So that's what we put out there. Yeah. So I think that's kind of an overview. Anything that I missed?
I think a common question that we get, Alicia, around move-in and that selection of move-in time is, hey, I'm coming from out of state. I don't have my move-in time yet. How am I supposed to book a flight? And they're going to be able to get an appointment on the date that they want. It's just a matter of exactly what that time slot would be within that. Is that correct or fair to say?
Yeah, that's a great point, and thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, so you can plan. You don't have to wait till early August to book your flight if you're coming from out of state. You'll be able to see the calendar of those dates. So again, early move-in happens that Tuesday and Wednesday of that same week, the week before classes, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there'll be appointments all of those days. And they're usually running, for the most part, most of the appointments will go from the morning until dinner time-ish with a little bit buffer there. And there will be more appointments than students. So you won't run out of appointments. You may say you want to arrive around noon and that time is booked. You can adjust it. You can pick a 1 o'clock or a 12:30 or something like that to adjust your plans, maybe grab some lunch on your way in or something like that. But, oh, great.
Yeah, I just refreshed the webpage and your
there you go.
calendar you said was being updated is there. So
it's like magic now.
Yeah, so this is nau.edu/move-in is the webpage I'm on right now that has this link.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, so you can see that I know they were working on that this afternoon. So I just figured if I talk long enough, maybe it would appear. There we go.
Perfect. I think maybe another housing related question that came in is around payment. Is it like by the month? How are you set up in terms of payments for housing?
Yeah, and this applies for both housing and also dining is similar in this. So we automatically break our payments apart. So we will post charges by semester. So by mid-July, we'll post the fall charges. And so you can pay up to the whole fall rent, but we automatically break it into 3 payments. So the first payment's due the week before classes start. And then there's a payment on September 15th and October 15th. And then at the end of fall, we'll post the spring charges in the same manner. So you can pay up to all of spring at once, or you can pay by the designated payment dates, which is again the week before classes start, and then February 15th and March 15th. And so there's 6 payments total over the course of the academic year. You'll also recognize when you see the first charge, that's on your account. It'll be $175 less than the other charges because you've already paid that housing rent confirmation payment of that $175. So you'll see that little bit of a difference there in those fall charges. And that's all. And we have on the Campus Living website, there's also under the drop down of Life on Campus, there's a section for important dates as well. And that breaks down into move in and rent charges due, and when do we open and when do we close for at the end of fall, and those kind of things we can plan ahead. So you can check that out as well.
Great. I think we had this question come in a couple different ways, basically asking, what if they don't get along with their roommate? What happens then? So it's a good question, and if you could speak to that a little bit, Alicia, that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely. And roommates sometimes, but usually when I ask students, like, what are you most nervous about? And I think especially we've got some, additional maybe energy from the last few years with the pandemic of feeling like, kind of moving from that feeling of isolation to connectedness. And that's a really big focus for us this year. That's what I've put out for all of our staff, that we really we've been in this kind of figurative and literal isolation through the pandemic. And so really wanting to focus on helping students feel connected to other students, to staff, to resources. So roommates being one of those things that we want to help set you up for success. And what we've seen long-term is that at NAU, we generally have a high roommate satisfaction rate when we survey students each year. Part of that is because we try to, from, even before day one, again, set you up for success. So what I would encourage you to do is on that Campus Living website, there's a section under Life on Campus that is our roommate success guide. So I'd encourage you to read through that. It has a lot of different resources, even questions to start asking each other, or like how to start a conversation before you even move in. There's kind of a template there. So if you're not sure what to even, lead off with in either in an email or a phone conversation, but just start to get to know each other. And then one of those easy topics to talk about as roommates is, what do you plan to bring? So you're not doubling up on everything. So that's kind of a pretty quick and easy way to start those conversations and say like, oh, hey, maybe I'm going to bring the microwave if you bring, the air popper or something like that. So, or maybe like an ironing board or something. But so this is the kind of tips for the step of all the way. So the roommate questionnaire, personal bio, that's, what we do on the portal. So how do you answer those questions on the portal? And then again, prior to moving in, if you click on that, Chad, you can come midway down. So this gives you some things to do, take time to talk before you come. Maybe if you're somewhat close, or even if it's not in person, maybe over a video call, and then just start planning for your arrival. So maybe you can both try to arrive around the same time or on the same day, so you can set up your room together, those kind of things. But really, as you get into the semester, if you're worried about like how you're getting along, just know that after move-in, we have you do an online roommate agreement through the housing portal. And so that really sets the tone for roommate communication. So it gives you some great prompts to talk about, think about, especially if you've never had a roommate before, or if your only roommate's been related to you. These are good questions. Even if you've been friends your whole life, you may have likely never lived together. So these are good questions regardless of how well you know that person. And then really, if you have problems at some point, the roommate agreement's there for those to help you navigate any kind of concerns that may come up. So maybe you set some standards for the room and someone's not following through, it gives you a baseline to go back to talk. And then in addition, if you really need help, navigating that, we try to encourage students to talk through that on their own and give you tips on how to do that. But our staff are available to help if you need, an extra set of, ears or communication to help you have that conversation. So reach out to your community assistant, who lives again right there on your wing or floor. And then also your campus living community coordinator is there. They manage the overall building. So a lot of resources. And there's even a section on that page for parents. So if you get a call in the middle of the night, concern about a roommate concern, there's some tips for parents how to help redirect some of those concerns as well.
As I'm scrolling through these web pages, I'm realizing you all have thought of everything and anticipate a lot of questions. So would encourage everyone to go dive into those pages and check out all the awesome resources that you have put together there. Let's see, trying to go look through the other housing questions that came in. I think we've hit a lot of the big ones. There were some questions around maybe the student didn't get paired up with a roommate yet or find a roommate.
Yeah.
What will that look like? Someone asked, will they be forced to move if they don't have someone choose to be their roommate? Or can you talk through that?
Yeah, so I would just know that we, plan on being full. Like right now, we look like we're gonna, we'll have all of our spaces full, and so I plan for that. That even if, say your student hasn't, they maybe selected a room earlier in the spring, and maybe no one's in the other space yet, they'll, they can keep logging and watching that. Once someone else, chooses that room or is assigned to that room, again, then they'll be able to see each other's emails and start that conversation. So in terms of roommate search, about half of our students use the roommate search tool in the portal and connect with roommates ahead of time, and about half either browse but then don't invite a roommate. But no matter what, if you haven't yet chosen your room and you're looking for that, you can still look to see where a space is. And if you see another person in that bed space, you can still see their profile, how they answered their questionnaire, and anything about their bio. So room selection is still kind of running through this week if you had a room selection time. So if you applied by May 15th, you would have gotten a room selection time and have been able to. So you can still wrap that up this week. If you applied after May 15th, or maybe paid your HRCP or housing rent confirmation payment later, don't worry, we'll still be assigning throughout the rest of the summer. So we'll get most of our students assigned heading into mid-July, but then we'll continue to assign students who are newly applying, or, for example, like in honors right now, we're still, we have some honors, most honors is full, like in terms of honors college, but then we have like another honors wing right now designated in Secrest. We'll continue to move some students into the honors college as we get cancellations. So that kind of happens throughout the summer. So anticipate a roommate, and for sure before opening, just keep checking the portal if you haven't heard. And then I would also encourage you to share with your students for them to check their NAU email on a regular basis. So we're probably the biggest driver of use of the NAU email before you move in, because there's a lot of kind of housing announcements. But you should get in the habit, if you haven't yet, your students should get in the habit of checking the email, because they may have a message there from their potential roommate or their current roommate. So.
Good advice overall, and I know financial aid and some other offices are communicating with that NAU email, so good habit for your student to get in, certainly. A couple of questions that I've been kind of trying to keep an eye on the YouTube chat as best I can. One parent asked about their students not enrolled in classes yet. Are they behind? Absolutely not. They're not behind. We're still enrolling a lot of new students coming in, and advising appointments are going to continue to occur throughout the summer. So your student is not behind. They will ultimately end up having a schedule that they're enrolled in as we continue to work through that. But kind of those steps I talked about in that advising section, if your student hasn't done those already, would encourage them to do that and get that advising appointment set as soon as they can. But yeah, definitely not behind. There's lots of time to get enrolled still. And then there was also a question that came in through the chat around transcripts and the submission of transcripts. I'm just going to share screen quick on that. nau.edu/next steps, and then choose the different student type, Flagstaff freshman, and you'll see the different next steps here, some of which we've already talked about here. But one of those is submitting transcripts. We do require students, even I'm assuming if you're joining us today that your student was admitted and your student's likely coming to NAU, but even still, we do require an official final high school transcript with that graduation date. Many students were admitted off of self-reported grades, and then we need that official final high school transcript to verify that. So July 1st is the deadline that we put out there for that. So would encourage you, if your student has not yet requested to have that final official transcript sent our way, that tomorrow during office hours at their school, give them a phone call or put in a request through whatever portal your student uses to request that transcript. And you can see that address there for schools that send a physical copy, and certainly some schools we know send those electronically as well. So I think I hit most of the housing ones that came in. Alicia, definitely check me while we move on to the next section and see if we missed anything there. But the next kind of category we want to jump into, now that we've talked where you're going to live, now let's talk what you're going to eat. We had some dining questions, and one of them just broadly, can you explain the meal plan? So Danny, if you could speak to meal plans a little bit.
Yes, yeah, happy to jump in, and certainly an important question to address before your students get here. So here at the university, there are 23 retail dining locations. So think Qdoba, maybe think Subway, areas like that. And then we also have 2 all-you-care-to-eat facilities. So a total of 25 different places where your students will have access to eating during their time here at NAU. Now, there are a number of dining meal plan options, and most frequently we're seeing students choose either 10, 14, or 19 meals per week. And those meals per week can be utilized at the various dining locations. So I think one of the questions as I was reading it, was asking about when will they have access to food and what are the different times. We've got stuff that is open late, certainly some of the coffee shops as well as you're getting through those midterms and finals weeks. So plenty of places for your students to eat. With their meal plan, let's say that you've selected something, and Alicia, I believe that meal plan selection is happening within the housing application. You do have about a 2-week grace period to test it out to make sure that that is a meal plan that works well for you. So I think back to my experience freshman year, which was quite a while back. But I do remember my mom was like, you're going to need, Miha, you're going to need the 19 meals per week. And that was just way too much. I was really good having, a banana and a breakfast bar on my way to classes in the morning, and then really using my meal plan at lunch and dinner time. And so to that end, each of the residence halls does have a mini fridge inside the room. So you can keep stuff in there like a gallon of milk and some cereal, things like that. I'm certainly not going to be doing any shopping at Costco and then fitting all of those groceries into that little mini fridge, but it is enough space. And so, you can go back from, let's say that 19 meals is too many, you can scale it back and do 14 meals per week. So you do have a little bit of flexibility within your first 2 weeks here at the university. Another part of dining on campus that I want to make sure we talk through are the dining dollars. So students can use dining dollars. They're like a tax-free debit system that we have here on the university community. Maybe you just want to go and pick up that gallon of milk. It's something that's really easy to load onto your Jack's ID card, and then you can shop on some of the on-campus markets as well to pick up a couple of groceries. Certainly walking distance from Target as well for your students who are thinking about doing some shopping there. But yeah, plenty of places for your students to eat. Open, I want to say hotspot probably from 7:30 on until I think some of our later hours go beyond 11 p.m. I'm in bed by that time, but your student will have plenty of access to meals. The one thing I do want to point out also about the dining dollars is that you can load up your student, let's say in the fall semester, those dining dollars will trickle over into the spring semester, but it's important that they are used by the last day of spring semester because they don't carry over academic year to academic year. So I think, Chad, were you pulling up the meal plans and how they worked? I think as I was talking through it, I would encourage you to spend some time on that meal plan website just so that you can become familiar with the various locations as to where your student can eat, but then also, special considerations for dietary needs and restrictions. All of that information is also outlined on the dining website as well.
Danny, did you talk about the NAU Go app in there?
Oh, I haven't yet.
Because that's a good resource too.
Yes, yeah.
If you download the NAU Go app, you can look up menus, locations, hours, special dietary needs. So that's all there too. So real handy in between classes if you're trying to see what's open or what's on the menu. That's a great place to reference as well, along with a lot of other really great information about NAU and what's happening.
Well, and you saying that, Alicia, also reminded me about our Starship robots. So should your student need to have their breakfast delivered, I think it's a $1.99 charge where your students can order through our Starship robot app. get that latte and pastry from Starbucks to meet them at that 8 a.m. class. So certainly something that your students can look into as well.
Great. Yeah, the robots do not drive inside though. So your student will have to at least go outside to meet the robots. All right, let's, I think that hits kind of high level most of the dining questions we got ahead of time. I'm going to jump into a section I was kind of referring to as finances or financial aid type questions. And one of the questions that came in ahead of time was that their student paid for housing with the debit card, and there was a fee that went along with that. What's the best way to pay for housing, tuition, all of that without incurring fees? Alicia, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, and I did this as a parent as well of a student. So if you use an e-check, electronic check, there's not a service fee attached to that. So that's what I would end up doing. You just need your routing number, your account number, routing number. And that's an option that you can pay with on your student Louis account. So that is what I would encourage you to do. But yeah, with the credit cards, you have that kind of additional processing fee. So that's a way to avoid that.
Great. I'm going to jump back actually to dining. There was a question that came in the chat asking a little bit about the blended meal plans, which are new for this fall as an option. And just going to kind of at a high level talk through those. And really this came from students saying we want more flexibility with our meal plans. And this was a way to help give more flexibility. So Danny had mentioned kind of those traditional 10 meal a week, 14, and then 19 meal a week plans, which you can see details of those on the webpage here. But the blended plans offer a little bit more flexibility in the sense that you have less meals assigned to each of the weeks, but you have a big kind of block of meals that you can choose when to use them. So maybe you've got a week where you're eating in the dining hall more frequently, and a week where you're not, or using those different transfers there. So just offering more flexibility regarding that, where you've got 80 meals essentially in this first one. So you've got 5 meals per week plus 80 meals that you can use kind of throughout the entire semester at whatever pace you would like. And then that other blended option being 7 meals a week. And then you have 110 meals that you can use, your student can use throughout the course of the semester, whereas the other plans are more tied to the specific week and that pace of using those meals with that. Anything to add on that, Alicia or Danny, in terms of the blended, or is that a good high level overview?
It is probably the only thing I would add to. Danny mentioned that grace period in the beginning of the semester. You can also change your meal plan between semesters. So if you tried something out in fall and maybe it didn't quite meet your needs, but you missed that window at the beginning, you can also change it for spring. If you applied for housing pretty early on in the cycle, like last fall, at some point we opened the app like about a year before we opened, and you would choose your initial meal plan. These meal plans came up, again, as Chad mentioned, through student input in the spring. So if you've already selected your initial meal plan through your housing app, you can this summer change it through your student Louis account. So if you go in through Louis, you're able to update your meal plan. So if you want to look at these and one meets your style or your needs better, you can do that. Or again, you can try it out as Danny mentioned and then change if needed, or be happy with what you chose.
Great. Thanks, Alicia. Yeah, I'm excited to have just more options for students to choose from and find the right meal plan for them. Let's see, continuing on the kind of the finance section. Danny, do you want to talk a little bit about kind of when like a student's bill actually comes out and when financial aid's applied and that kind of stuff?
Yes, yeah. So students are going to start receiving invoices in July that will outline their tuition, their housing, their meal plan charges, and you can access all of this information also in your student's Louis account. So tuition fees, I believe, is due on August 22nd. Disbursement of any financial aid funds will occur August 20th and kind of throughout the weekend there. But you can see all of that information in your student's Louis account. Now, Chad, I think there were also some questions about, how do we go about applying for student loans? Also, you really want to make sure that you're logging into that Louis account, that you're doing and completing the master promissory note that's associated with any loan opportunities that your student is considering. And so going through there, understanding, the repayment process and acknowledging that, yes, I understand what I'm doing here is I'm considering these federal loans. That's all something that's going to be really important as well. So tuition, housing, meal plan charges will all be in your student's Louis account. Now, as Alicia mentioned, with housing, you're able to pay that on a more monthly cadence. Dining is also associated that way as well. And so one of the things that's really helpful for families to do, especially as you're looking to assist your student in these processes, navigating due dates and deadlines, we encourage everyone to complete the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, or FERPA form. So on the NAU website, if you just quick Google search NAU FERPA, FERPA, that is one of the things that you and your student can go through, so that you have access to calling in, asking questions about your student's account, and allows you authorization to be a part of those conversations. So something that is super important as you are navigating through the financial components, especially those components in preparation for your student being here in August.
Had a question that came in ahead of time around the work study program and what that looks like. And I can chat through that a little bit. And I'm going to show a website here again, nau.edu/handshake, which is where your student can go to start looking for on-campus jobs. And actually, it's a portal that's used for internships and employment when they finish at NAU as well. But one of the ways they can use it currently is if they do want a job on campus. And the question that came in ahead of time specifically asked about work study, which is there is federal work study dollars that your student may or may not have received on their financial aid package. And with that federal work study, essentially, if they were to get an on-campus job, they would be getting paid with those federal work study dollars. That being said, if your student did not receive federal work study, they can still very much get a job on campus. There are lots of on-campus jobs available for students, whether they got federal work study or not. I haven't got an updated number lately, but I know at least a few thousand students do have on-campus jobs. And I always encourage, if your student is planning to work while they are in college, those on-campus jobs are great options for them because their employer understands they're a student first, right? And maybe they've got a final or a midterm or those types of things. They're likely to work with your student around their schedule. So yeah, I highly encourage on-campus jobs if your student is choosing to work. And obviously the convenience of being right there close to where they're living as well. So I had a couple of shifting gears now. Health kind of related questions. And Danny, I'm going to throw this first one to you. It was what to do if mental health or counseling are needed.
Yes, yeah. One of the things that I really appreciate about NAU is just their responsiveness to student needs. So our counseling, our campus health services offers a number of resources for students to take care of their physical wellness, but also, as this question is asking, their mental health. So campus health services, they offer individual counseling, they offer consultation for parents and parents as well as students, actually. And then students can jump into group therapy sessions. That is an option. Of course, there's always 24-hour emergency crisis intervention, but the community is really proactive about going and anticipating student needs. So one of the events I love sharing with families and students alike is the Pause Your Stress event, where we bring animals, service animals, emotional support animals to campus. And it's just a nice way to like take 5 minutes away from whatever you've got going on around you. And take a little bit of a break. So all of that to say, we have plenty of services on our campus community that your student can utilize while they are here. So yeah, encourage families, rather students, to jump in, walk over to the Health and Learning Center, and get to know some of the staff who are a part of our campus health services team.
Great. Yeah, looking ahead kind of to questions here. I think I'm going to jump ahead to the safety category, where we had a few questions that came in around safety and getting around campus at night, those types of things. Danny, can you speak to that?
Yeah, definitely. So certainly we encourage students to do the same things that they would do while they're at home. Maybe it's walk in with a buddy if that's what makes you feel safe. The best recommendation that I have for students is to download the NAU Safe app. There are a number of services through the Safe app that students can use, like, for example, sending their location real time to another friend on campus. You can request a safety escort to walk you around campus if you need it. You can also do things like request motor assistance. So I know I've locked my keys in my car before. So this Safe app is really all encompassing, so that you can get those, sign up for emergency alerts that are happening on campus. But this NAU Safe app really takes it all, and is a good app for students and families to download alike. Yeah.
So that'd be a couple apps now. So NAU Grow app, we recommend it if you haven't downloaded that yet. And then that NAU Safe app are some options to download there that we would encourage you to do so. Let's see here. I think you hit on a lot of the safety type questions that had popped up ahead of time there. Gonna jump into transportation. We had quite a few transportation questions come in ahead of time. So I think you're all starting to think of how's my student getting there and how are they getting home to see me and visit me soon. So parking passes was one of the questions that came in. And let me share screen again. nau.edu/parking is the website for that. And the first section you'll see on here is actually them encouraging students or letting them know you don't need a car here on campus. And that's often a question that comes in these formats or different events that we do on campus. Does my student need to have a car? And it's absolutely a luxury, more so than a necessity, to have a car. There is the need to pay for parking if your student chooses to bring their car to campus, and it certainly isn't like they are driving to class, for instance. Their car is probably going to kind of stay put unless they're going off campus to something, or driving home from campus, or exploring all that Northern Arizona has to offer. But it's not going to be kind of used to drive around campus. It'll likely be hanging out in a lot or a garage here. And there are a variety of options in terms of lot options, garage options, and different prices with that. They will become available August 1st is the date that your student will be able to log in and purchase a permit, should they choose that they want one of those. And the reason we can do it kind of that late is it's paid by the license plate. So we don't need to get you a physical permit. Your student will, it'll be recognized based upon their license plate. You will see here, there is this supplemental front parking plate here in the state of Arizona. At least we do not have front license plates. So if your student wants to back into a parking space, for instance, They do need to have their license plate showing, and that front parking plate that they could purchase is something they could put on the front of their car if they want to back into parking spots. Now, that being said, they just have the rear license plate. As long as they always pull forward into parking spots, they will be just fine. So we did have some questions around bikes as well, and renting lockers and that type of thing. And that's all on this nau.edu/parking website. You can get more information around registering bikes, and then also the bike lockers and enclosures that we have available here on campus for students. And then I think also on the transportation front, there were some questions kind of around shuttles from campus. Danny, do you want to talk about shuttle options?
Yeah, I was going to say, you can't just tell students not to bring their cars and then not tell them how to get here. So yes, whether you're flying into Phoenix International Sky Harbor Airport and then taking that jumper flight to the Flagstaff Airport, that is certainly an option for our students. But there is Groom Transportation, which is kind of like a shuttle system across the state of Arizona. And that will pick students up at the Phoenix Airport and then drop them off at various locations on campus. So that is always an option for students. I think as I was looking at some pricing, around $55 or so to take the trip from the Phoenix Airport up to the Flagstaff campus. And then, of course, there is also the Flix bus that is an option for students as well. And so just trying to think about, okay, maybe it's a student coming from the Tucson area to Flagstaff, that was about $50 also. So those are the two systems that we recommend for students who are making that trip, deciding to leave their cars at home, but still wanting to get back and forth throughout the semester.
Yep, and those shuttles drop you right at the Phoenix Airport. Flagstaff also has a regional airport as well too, with flights to Denver, Phoenix for a connection, or Dallas, Texas would be the three options out of Flagstaff here. But yeah, flying to Phoenix and taking a shuttle up is a popular way to go about it as an out-of-state student. All right, I'm going to jump into kind of our other category, which things that I couldn't find another category for, put into this bucket here. And Alicia, we'll get you involved here again. Printers, and there's a question around if there's printers available in residence halls, or what options students have there.
Yeah, there are print stations in all of our campus living communities, and they and also across campus. So the cool thing is you can, say if you had print a paper out and you're going to class, you can designate which printer you want it to go to, and it can hold it until you release it. So you can actually have it scheduled to print closer to your class or down in the lobby of your campus living community or elsewhere in the union, and pick that. And then when you're ready to pick it up, you release it. So you don't need your own printer. There are print stations. But that's one of those things too, if you're thinking about bringing a printer, that's where you can talk to your roommate again about maybe what you're bringing, each of you are bringing. We just encourage you not to have one that has its own access point, but if you'll hook with the wireless system in the campus living community. So, but that's listed. It has more detail on that, what to bring and not to bring. So you just don't want to bring your own wireless access point. So other than that, you can use those printers across campus.
Thanks, Alicia. Kind of going on the tech theme, I guess. There's also a question around if the student's choosing to purchase a laptop, is there a certain operating system that they should choose? Danny, do you want to speak to that at all?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And my answer is it's going to vary based off of your student's academic area of interest. So I think interior design is really particular about PCs. Engineering students may have a different preference for some of the systems that they are using. So would encourage you to reach out directly to their academic department as you're making those decisions. But while we're on this topic, it's also really helpful for students to know that we do have laptops available that students can check out through Klein Library. So whether it's a Chromebook, a MacBook, a PC, that is something that all NAU students have access to. Maybe they're going into electronic media and film and they just need a GoPro to really capture the angle of some underwater footage. Fantastic. There is a number of opportunities for students to check out various pieces of equipment, GoPros, Canon Rebels, all of that for your students to check out through Klein Library. So before you go and make too many big purchases, always a good idea to check in with our Klein Library. And then certainly, you know, things happen throughout the semester. Maybe you spill a coffee. Our technology services is also available to students as kind of like a first line of defense, like bring your laptop in while they're addressing whatever has gone wrong with your system. They can oftentimes loan out a laptop for your student while you're waiting to see what your next step is. So really encourage students. I mean, Klein Library is a hidden gem for student resources, in my opinion. So would also encourage you to spend some time on that website, just familiarizing yourself with all of the many resources that they offer for our students here at the university.
Yeah, don't let your student wait until finals week to discover Klein Library. Have them check out all those awesome resources throughout the entire semester. Had a question that came in ahead of time around trying out for an athletic team, and really NAU athletics would work independently from the admissions office and all of us. So I would just really encourage your student to go to the NAU athletics website. And there is, I believe it says recruits or something along that line up at the top. And for each of the different sports, there is the contact, and sometimes there's a questionnaire they can fill out or a direct contact to the coach that kind of heads up recruiting efforts there. So would just encourage them to reach out directly to whatever sport they are interested in on that front. And then there was a question ahead of time around the JAX card, and I will share that web page quick here. nau.edu/JAX card is where your student would check out, and the to-do for everybody, whether they want to do a digital JAX card or have a physical old school hard copy of a JAX card like me, they would need to upload their photo. So that's the item that everyone needs to be doing and kind of on the next steps checklist. And they can see information about that here, about submitting their photo online. Starting in July, which isn't too far from now, students that have an Apple device, if they choose to have a digital credential rather than a physical card, they're going to be able to start commissioning those in the month of July. I have been told that at some point this fall, we will have it available for Android as well. But Apple, we do know for sure, July 1, students are going to be able to start commissioning those digital credentials should they choose to go that route. If your student chooses that they want to go the physical card route, the pickup for those will be around move-in time at a location somewhere around the University Union. Is where we're going to have the pickup options for students there. And the question, I think one of the JAX card related questions that came in ahead of time was, can my student have both the digital card and a physical card? And the answer to that is no, they can't. They do need to choose if they want to go the digital route or the physical card route. And really a lot of that has to do with security here on campus. We don't want students going around using their digital credential and having no idea where that physical card is. And someone might be getting access with that physical card. So one option for each student. So they will have to make that choice. So the last thing I kind of want to finish with is there were some kind of orientation type questions that came in, and we are wrapping up our in-person orientation options at the end of this week on Friday. And I think someone asked, can parents come? And yes, certainly you can come to orientation. We've got special programming for parents there. But we also realize that some folks are not joining us for an in-person orientation. And we've designed it in a purposeful way that families and students can get all the information they need without coming to an in-person orientation. So options throughout the summer, and just want to draw your attention to those. nau.edu/welcome is the webpage that I'm on currently here. And you'll see different virtual agendas that you can choose from as a incoming first-year student, family and guest, transfer students. And really that lays out other options to be connecting with us throughout the summer, things like parent chats, our forecast from Flagstaff, other opportunities as well. And at the bottom of this page, there's lots of other good information too. I just want to draw your attention to some student handbooks, more information, a lot of the kind of big topics that we talked about tonight. You can find all that information on this nau.edu/welcome page. Drawing attention to these specific agendas, that freshman agenda, this is a look at that as we look ahead to the month of July. We've got several more of our Financing Your Education webinars, which I would really encourage you and your students to attend one of those. Life on Campus webinar coming up at the end of the month, which if you want to dive even deeper with Alicia in terms of living on campus and get more information there. We also have a Spanish session coming up later this month as well. And Advising's put together some awesome opportunities here you can see on Tuesdays. And on the student version of it, there's the Instagram takeover you can see every single Wednesday. And really that's a great opportunity if your student, if you think they would benefit from hearing from another student or connecting with another student, I'd really encourage them to jump in on the Instagram takeovers. We have our ambassadors take over and just answer questions live coming in. So that's an opportunity for them to connect with a real life NAU student. And then the other agenda that if we looked at the parent and family one specifically, you can see the upcoming forecast from Flagstaff, upcoming parent chat, again, lots of Financing Your Education webinar options as well. So lots more opportunities for those of you that are enjoying connecting with us virtually or unable to have come to one of those in-person orientations. We're going to deliver all the same information to you virtually. So making sure that you are in the know with all the things. So I always like to say at the end of these that these are not the only way that you can ask us a question. Reach out if you've got a question that's specific to your student or maybe something we didn't hit on tonight that you need a quicker answer to. Would encourage you to shoot an email to admissions@nau.edu. And if we don't know the answer, we'll seek out somebody that does. And we know that you spending the time with us tonight it really shows how much you care about your student and their success here at NAU. So it means a lot having you all join us. And thanks, Alicia. Thanks, Danny, for taking the time tonight. And look forward to connecting with you throughout the summer. And maybe we'll see you on campus when you're moving on. So until then, take care.